Welcome to this explainer. It's pretty amazing when you stop and think about it, how a tiny newborn transforms into a fully grown adult with such remarkable consistency. It's not just some random series of growth spurts. It turns out human development is this incredibly meticulous, highly predictable biological algorithm. It's like a perfectly calibrated schedule. So today, we're going to unpack the exact principles and the physical milestones that pediatricians actually use to track this fascinating journey from birth all the way through childhood. Now, right off the bat, here's something absolutely wild. Newborns actually shrink before they grow. No kidding. During their very first few days of life, an infant drops about 10% of their total body weight. I know, it sounds a bit alarming, but it's totally normal. This drop is literally just the shedding of extracellular fluid. And the body's blueprint is on it. It corrects this almost instantly. Most babies completely bounce back and regain their initial birth weight by the time they're just 10 days old. And that sets the stage for the massive growth phase that hits right after. Okay, let's dive right in. We'll be breaking this blueprint down into 4 key metrics today: the weight multiplier effect, calculating your target height, brain and body proportions, and finally, the big picture with BMI. Starting us off with Section 1, the weight multiplier effect, or decoding mass. So when we look at mass, a baby's weight doesn't just slowly, gradually creep upward. It literally multiplies at astonishing, highly predictable rates. It's basically the ultimate weight hack of early development. Let's say we start at an average birth weight of about 3 kilograms. Once they get past that initial fluid loss we just talked about, infants pack on roughly 25 to 30 grams every single day for the first 3 months. Then they add about 400 grams every month for the rest of their first year. But look at these specific multipliers. This is the crazy part. A baby doubles their birth weight by 5 months, hitting 6 kilos. They triple it at a year to 9 kilos, quadruple it by age 2 to 12 kilos, and by 3 years old, they've multiplied their original birth weight by 5. It's a complete exponential explosion of mass. Now, obviously, the body can't sustain that kind of rapid multiplication forever, right? So after that initial explosion, the blueprint gracefully shifts gears. It settles into this steady, super reliable rhythm. On average, a child will gain about 2 kilograms every single year between the ages of 3 and 7. After age 7, the blueprint dials up the mass production just a tiny bit, adding about 3 kilos per year. And this really steady, predictable pacing just cruises right along until the entirely unpredictable pubertal growth spurt finally kicks in. Moving on to Section 2, calculating your target height, or decoding vertical growth. Just like weight, vertical growth has its own precise, almost universal schedule early on. Starting from a baseline of about 50 centimeters at birth, a kid gains height rapidly. They usually hit 60 centimeters at 3 months and 70 centimeters by 9 months. Keeping that exact trajectory, they'll reach 75 centimeters at their first birthday and 90 centimeters by age 2. Then, right around 4.5 years old, they typically hit that massive 1-meter milestone, 100 centimeters tall. After hitting a meter, kids consistently gain about 6 centimeters in height every year until around age 12, which is when puberty flips the board and accelerates everything again. So, the million-dollar question: where does all this vertical growth finally stop? While those early milestones we just looked at are incredibly uniform for almost everyone, the final destination is entirely unique to the individual. Think about your own parents' heights for a second, and let's see if you actually hit your genetic target. To figure out a child's target height, pediatricians use a surprisingly straightforward formula to assess their true growth potential. It goes like this. You simply add the father's height and the mother's height together and divide by 2. Easy enough, right? That gives you the average, but here's the key biological divergence based on sex. To find the target height for boys, you add 6.5 centimeters to that average. And for girls, you just subtract 6.5 centimeters from that average. Now, of course, genetics aren't an absolute straight line. That calculated target height, it's really just a baseline that represents the child's potential. Mathematically speaking, the officially acceptable range for a child's final height is within 2 standard deviations of that target. But for a much more practical, everyday application in the clinic, medical professionals use a really handy rule of thumb. You simply pad that target height with an extra 7 centimeters for girls or an extra 8.5 centimeters for boys. If the child falls anywhere within that expanded window, you know their vertical blueprint is tracking perfectly. All right, next up on our agenda, Section 3, brain and body proportions, specifically looking at the head versus the chest. Now, this comparison isn't just about tracking the physical size of the child. It actually serves as a direct, measurable window into early brain development. and the head grows unbelievably fast early on. At birth, head circumference is generally between 33 and 35 centimeters. But to make room for that rapidly expanding brain, the head gains 2 full centimeters per month for those first 3 months. It's an all-out sprint. After that, it slows down just a bit, gaining 1 centimeter per month between 3 and 6 months, and then just half a centimeter per month for the rest of year 1. Fast forward to age 12, and the head circumference will have eventually settled out at an average of about 52 centimeters. But here is what I find really fascinating. It's like this ultimate battle of bodily proportions. When we're born, our proportions are heavily skewed toward the brain. In fact, a newborn's head circumference is actually about 3 centimeters larger than their chest. But as the rest of the body develops, the chest starts catching up. They tie exactly at 1 year of age. The measurements are virtually identical. And from that first birthday onward, the chest finally takes the permanent lead, staying larger than the head for the rest of the person's life. And finally, bringing us to Section 4, the big picture, assessing overall health with body mass index. You've probably heard of body mass index, or BMI. It's calculated by taking a person's weight in kilograms and dividing it by their height in meters squared. But in the realm of pediatric growth, BMI isn't just some abstract number. It is the primary clinical tool that medical professionals rely on. It helps them flag exactly when a child's highly structured growth starts to stray off that blueprint we've been talking about and crosses over into obesity. And the medical standard for this in children is actually quite strict. An individual is clinically categorized with obesity if their BMI hits or exceeds the 95th centile for their specific age group, or alternatively, if they cross an absolute BMI score of 30. And this is absolutely crucial to track because crossing these specific thresholds is rapidly emerging as a major health concern globally. Interestingly, though, it's being noted most prominently within affluent populations. Which really brings us to a compelling final thought for this explainer. We've spent our time today decoding this amazing biological algorithm, this ancient, meticulously calibrated blueprint that tells us exactly how to multiply our mass, hit our genetic height, and balance our body proportions. But knowing that obesity is becoming such a prominent global concern, especially in affluent populations, we're forced to ask a really difficult question. Are our modern resource-rich environments actually starting to override and rewrite this ancient, perfectly calibrated blueprint of human growth? It's a profound puzzle, and one that absolutely challenges how we view human development in the modern world.